at this point in how finance works and how deeply necessary the financial system is, I think it's more of a human right to be able to access it, and people will any way, shape, or form that they can. And seeing people get shut off from these things because they're doing actions that the government just doesn't like, I think crypto is going to become very, very useful for that. And maybe that is being quote unquote illicit, but in an ongoing surveillance state, I don't know what else there is, you know?
I'm sure. I'm absolutely
as a bit.
Yeah,
it's not gay if it's a bit.
It's a good bit.
So this is off the record where we're gonna.
I don't know when.
I don't know when we're gonna cut here.
I don't know when we start being on the record. Yeah. I mean, shit. I don't know. I'm already drinking, so yeah. I assume everything's on the record every time.
I usually do too, and I'm not sure my boss is always like that.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I really attract some really polarizing people to my Twitter too. Like, I don't say anything that no one else isn't saying, or things that are worse than anybody else is saying, but for some reason I just piss people off.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in lieu of the normal starting question, why the fuck do you make people so angry? Like, why do you...
I don't know!
Why do you... No, I mean, I guess, maybe actually in, like, a smart question way. Like, why do you think you provoked such a visceral reaction on the internet from, like, random people? But... Okay, V. Well, yeah, what... Let's just answer each other's interview questions.
No, it's cool. I think there's actually a lot of reasons for it. I think part of it, I mean, the obvious part is that I'm a girl. Like, that's just going to be
what I was
50% of the answer right there. I also think the other part of it is that I don't, how do I put this? I don't conform to a lot of gender norms in the sense of, like, women are usually it's really pushed into them to be, like, submissive almost. And, like, if you're aggressive, you're a bitch, or in a workplace scenario, if you're doing the same things a guy is doing, it can be looked at very, very differently. You're
being bossy.
Yeah, I'm being bossy, or I'm, XYZ. It doesn't matter. And I think that bleeds into online, where people expect women to kind of be a little bit more demure. I don't really know the right word there, and then I'm not. People will argue with me, and if I think they're wrong, I have a habit of arguing back. And I think a lot of people just ignore it. And the other part of it is that I can be a little bit of a shitster, if you hadn't noticed. But I don't really know what it is. I mean, some of it I think is confidence too, where I'm not a very confident person, but I guess I come off that way on the internet. And people are offended by it. But, there's things where, like, there was a guy the other day who replied to one of my tweets about, I don't know, my plants, and was saying something about how I should start making yogurt as a hobby. And I said, I'm allergic to milk. That's all I said was, I am allergic to milk, so ... because, I thank you for your... No. So he replies, and instead of being like a normal person and being like, oh, that sucks, or that's really weird, or anything, he goes, oh, well, I bet you think you're bisexual, too.
That's such a great, like, Alex Jones bit, like, the lactose intolerant. They're making us lactose intolerant and gay.
But I'm not even lactose intolerant. Like, lactose is a sugar in milk. I'm allergic to cow's milk. There's a protein in cow's milk that I cannot have. It makes me projectile vomit and gag, and I didn't know this for years and was in, like, organ failure twice because of it. Like,
that definitely sounds like an early warning sign of being gay. So sorry.
My organs failing definitely means I'm gay. But I mean, yes, I am also bisexual. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do. So anyway, this guy, I didn't even say anything. I just was like, I don't know what. So I blocked him. He starts tweeting at my work.
That's sick.
What am I supposed to do about that? I don't really know. Nobody was mad at me, but they're like, you shouldn't kick a hornet's nest, and in some of these situations, I have no idea what I could do
I don't
differently.
think saying that you're allergic to dairy is kicking
It's not kicking a hornet's nest. That's
like the actual answer is like, it's not like why are you so divisive? It's like, why are men on the internet like this? And like that's like a much bigger question. But yeah, I mean, it is. I definitely like your comments section under like tweets. Yeah, it's like it's really psychotic.
You know, and I don't even think it's just me being a woman, and everyone always likes to say that, but like plenty of my friends are online, have bigger followings than me, are women, and don't get the same responses. So I also wonder if part of it is just that like I don't necessarily put a lot of effort into the things I put on Twitter. So it's very organic, original, authentic, and people kind of view it as like overly familiar. So they think they're a lot closer to me than they are.
Parasocial.
It's very parasocial, where people are like, they know me way better than I know them, and they think it's some sort of friendship, when really all it is they're like putting their perceptions of me and responding to that, which is nothing to do with me.
Projecting, yeah.
It's a lot of projection, I think, and it's really weird to me. Like, I was at a party once, and a guy comes up to me and goes, "You're Birb, right?" And I was like,
"Wow,
yeah, but I have a name." Like, and it's happened multiple times, and it was actually, I don't even know if I should share this story, maybe whatever. I was at Crypto Bahamas, and UXD threw a party. And I'm close with some of the guys. I love Zord. I went to the party, and they had posted the address of it on Twitter. So I'm there at this party, and I'm upstairs talking to people, and it's like this really cool little shack on the beach. It was a really cool party. This Bahamian guy shows up and starts asking people where I am. A guy
this is like the start of a bad green text.
Oh, it's not good. It's better from there. So he starts asking people if they know where I am, and he, asks if anyone knows where Birb is, which is like fine because everyone calls me Birb. Like, that's normal. No one thinks anything of it. And then, he comes up and like starts talking to me, and it's cool, and he's very nervous for some reason and tells me he's nervous, and I was just trying to be friendly, and then he takes out his phone and starts trying to take videos of me. And like with me, and made me say like I was out there with him and he was my friend, and like it was just this very strange situation where all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, I don't know this person at all, and they're trying to record me, and I'm sitting up here by myself with this guy that I don't know anything about him. And that was a weird part of it. And then he got really mad that my real name wasn't Birb Bernanke.
I mean,
what?
Yeah, that's such an awesome genre of dude. That's like such a cool type of guy.
I'm
sure there's a lot of guys like that. I'm sure there's like many people like that.
But I was like, what, did you really think that was my real name? And he was like, well, that's what's on your Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay. It's not. Sorry.
He's like lifting up his shirt. There's a tattoo that says Birb on his chest.
Right.
Oh,
no.
my goodness.
Anyway, I ended up like just avoiding him really for the rest of the night because I didn't really know what to do. Like, he got some food, he got some drinks. He had a good time. He started doing the same thing to like other women. So I don't necessarily know that he was just like singling me out, or I don't know what, but I don't think dudes have that happen on the internet.
If that guy's listening, open invite to come on the podcast. I want to know what the fuck is going on. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to get some Dr. Phil type shit. I want to have an intervention, and I think I'm the person to do it.
The intervention is we're not turning this into a drama podcast.
We keep saying didn't say anything about his name or anything like that. Like, I don't think he meant any harm. It was just a very, very strange situation.
Yeah, that's honestly like the bit aside, like that's genuinely terrifying and weird and super uncomfortable.
I was a little creeped out. I mean,
yeah,
I was a little creeped out by it, but that's kind of what comes with the territory of like putting an address on the internet and then just telling people to show up, is that you hold yourself out to the public, and the public is not always who you think they are.
The public's normal and well adjusted.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I've had lots of experience dealing with the public because I worked at a brokerage when I first got out of college, and I worked like the night shift. well after the market was closed. I worked 10:30 to 10 p.m. It was a pretty rough shift, and there were always old, lonely people that called in at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, because they had no one else to call but their brokerage. So it's not, it's really laughing, but that's really sad. But there were a couple, you got to know people, you got to hear all parts of life, and some of them are not well. Some of them are cool, some of them are not well.
There's a podcast, Late Nights at the Brokerage.
Yeah, welcome to Late Nights at the Brokerage.
Welcome to Late Nights at the Brokerage.
Alluding to the past then, as much as you're willing to share, what was your trajectory to get here? What is your origin story in terms of arriving at this place?
I don't think I've actually ever fully given the full story. Now that I think about it,
exclusive, V. This is good.
Yeah,
one that no one knows.
Here's your chance.
People have asked this before, and I guess maybe in little conversations I've kind of thrown it out there, but where do I start? I guess. So I spent the first 18 years of my life in the Panhandle of Florida, and neither of my parents went to college. They were both state workers. They didn't make a lot of money. We had a nice time. We had a fine house. It was fine. Everything was lower middle class, if you will. Things were tight. We struggled a little bit, but my parents did a really good job of making us feel like we weren't. And I started rowing because basically I knew I needed something, and I was not a great kid. I got into a lot of trouble, and I needed something for structure and to keep me from basically being dead at 20. And so I got into rowing because one of my friends was like, "Hey, I'm on the junior national team. You should just come out." So I did, and I did that for 4 years, all 4 years of high school, and I had a job at the same time, and that kind of sucked, but whatever. And then I got recruited to do rowing in college. So I went on a bunch of official visits, and then I ended up going to Alabama on a half scholarship, which was really the only way I could afford to go to school. So I went, and it was it was a great 4 years in the sense that I learned a lot and I had a lot of fun with a lot of people, but it was also a miserable experience being a double majoring student athlete. That was shitty. If anyone's thinking about doing that, don't do that. Just have one major. You don't need two. Especially if one of them is useless, because I ended up with a philosophy degree and an economics degree. And I was...
The economics was the useless one?
The economics was totally the useless one. That's 100% what I'm saying. Get a philosophy degree. It'll be a good idea. I actually only ended up getting the economics degree because I'd started school as a mechanical engineering and philosophy major, decided that sucked, and went to the business school because I knew my mom would kill me if I only got a philosophy degree. So the business school was my backup. That's a normal way to think about that. Anyway, I'm really doing a great job of explaining this, and I'm talking really well today. I really hope everyone forgives me for the 10,000 cold meds in my system. I'm sweating, and it's really gross.
There have definitely been some interviews where people have also not really known how to present their life stories. So I think you're doing fine.
For sure. That's fair.
Yeah, just
that's
keep
fair.
rolling. You got the momentum. You got the mic.
I just wanted to point out that I'm soaked in sweat. It's really cool. So Alabama,
you stop saying bait for the weirdest people in the fucking world on the podcast. Please, please stop giving them that.
This is my brand. This is my brand of just under the radar things that make all of the creepiest people on the internet just really love me. Anyway, I graduated. I was all set to actually go to West Virginia and do a PhD in econ, and then I said, you know what? I really don't want to be poor anymore. So I kind of ghosted the program that I was supposed to go to and just said I'm not doing it. And I moved to Indiana to answer the phones for a brokerage, having never been north of Tennessee, really, for any long period of time. And so that winter was the first time I saw snow, which was really crazy because I was 22 years old. I still don't really know how to drive in snow. I spent 3 years there. I still don't really know how to drive in it. It's really hard. And like I said, I answered the phones at a brokerage there. And what they did is, you go in and they teach you kind of, here's how to answer the phone when, an idiot calls and needs help with a check. And then they put you in classes, and then they sit you in a room and you study for your 7, you study for your 63, and then you pass it and you become a quote unquote broker. And basically all that ends up happening is clients call in with questions about financial stuff, really, because it could have been anything. And, I placed a lot of trades. I did a lot of basic things. Anybody that calls a brokerage talking about like wealth management, I handled that. I handled estate stuff. Got a really strong base, but the thing I really liked was trading and options. And I moved up pretty quickly and went into their quote unquote advanced brokerage, where they kind of, it was more specialized calls where people like, it wasn't just the first line of I need a broker. It was more complicated things. And then I became basically their options departments. Like, I joke that I was the unpaid intern, but I was really kind of on their team and not on their team because I did all of the extra work for them while not getting the paycheck. Because it looked good, right? And I liked options. So then I was teaching at and helping out with that. And I moved into this department where basically I was the last person you talked to before you sued the brokerage.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that was a really fun job, honestly. I love that one. It was, and this is not really a brag. It comes out sounding like a brag. The average tenure on that team was like, everyone there had been at this brokerage 20 years, and I did it in a year and a half. And I really loved it because it was a combination of things where, like, if a client called in and said, hey, this broker messed up, or my trade didn't go through, I was the one researching it and figuring out if we had messed up or if they had messed up and doing all of the back end work to fix it. Or if, there was an outage, I was the one going in and fixing it. Or if you needed a trade busted, you could call in and get the trade busted. I would bust it if I was feeling nice that day. And depending on how big it was, how bad it was, I had a lot of discretion. And the other part of it was really being the help desk for brokers. So anytime someone didn't know something, needed help, what am I trying to say here? There were certain trade sizes that couldn't be placed by anybody but me. There were certain risk levels that couldn't be done by anybody but me. So it was a very dynamic and interesting job. The problem was that there was like nowhere to go from there. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to be a call center manager forever? And I wanted more than that. So I quit that and I moved. I actually got hired at FINRA and had offers from 2 different departments. Basically had my choice of which one I wanted. I picked the Treasury Oats reporting department and then quit that job the day before I started. So I'm sure the FINRA really loves me. But I quit it because I got an opportunity to move to Chicago instead and work for a prop shop / market maker. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to do that. That's way more interesting, right? Like, I don't want to be a regulator. I like trading. Let's do this. So I moved to Chicago. I did that for like 9 months. It wasn't quite what I thought it would be. It wasn't really a personality fit. I learned a lot there. I had a very interesting time there. It was very pulling the curtain back and seeing, the dynamics and how markets actually work and what happens in them. And then I moved on from that. And I went back to the brokerage that I'd actually been working for. And I called them and I said, look, I took 12,000 phone calls the 3 years I was there. What do you have for me that's not on the phones? Because I'm never taking another phone call again. Like, I'm not doing, it's horrible. What do you have? Like, I know how your clients work. I know what's broken. I know what everyone complains about. Like, what can I do? And I had been interviewing basically there before I left. So I ended up in their product management department. And I was the retail options experience product owner when all of the GameStop and AMC stuff happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, boy. I can imagine that was
yeah.
So I was basically responsible for anything on the website, not the platform, because, there's downloadables and then there's website. I was anything on the website related to options. So it was more of the basic stuff, but I was still responsible for it. So I spent a year doing that. And I had so many things I wanted to do. I had ideas. I had designs. I was learning product management. I was learning how product development worked. And in that entire year, I had so many things, like I said, and by the time I left, I'd gotten a quarter of one of them out. And it was so frustrating to me because I had 5 huge things I wanted to do, and it was just like ceremony for ceremony's sake, and things were just not moving. It was 6-week code freezes and then reviews, and then, anything that got done had to go through management, and then management had to approve it with another management, and then you had meetings about the meetings, and I was just like, I can't do this. So a startup came along and said, hey, we released 12 features this year. Do you want to come work for us instead? And I went, yeah, absolutely. Not doing a lot of research on it. So I went and found out why they'd released 12 features in that year. And it was because they were a mess. So I spent like, how long was that? I guess 9-10 months there, basically finding a process for them and helping them and being the go-between between the CEO and CTO and trying to make things happen, building things, and trying to keep everybody steering in the same direction. Um, and then that fell apart, as startups do. It was a little political. I had to quit 4 times before I actually was able to quit. And then I was on Twitter, and I was just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do now. I just quit this with absolutely nothing lined up. And my current bosses actually followed me on Twitter and said, "Hey, we love what you do. Do you, let's talk." And it ended up working out, and I've been there since doing product. And I like to joke it's being the professional worrier of just, there's a million things everybody always has to worry about and think about. I should do that and not the people that are coding and worrying about their job. So that's really what I've been up to. And that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting in the sense of like, I feel like not a lot of people were in, either people were like very crypto native from the like inception,
Yeah.
or like just stumbled across it. But so it's an interesting middle ground to like be involved in like finance, right? And like in like the actual like traditional financial system to an extent before like winding up in crypto. Like when you got into crypto, you were like, this is like fucking Wild West bullshit. What is this?
So,
and like, how did you feel?
Actually, I was in crypto in 2012, for reasons. Like I said, I wasn't a good kid.
I
Yes.
think I know what it was. I think
yes,
yeah.
Yes, it was. If you're listening to this, yes, I was in the same reason for anybody else was in crypto in 2012. And then I went to college and said, I'm going to reinvent myself as someone who goes outside. So I'm going to pretend I don't know what any of this is. And then I didn't look at anything in crypto for basically 8 years. And then I started looking at it again and was trading a little bit on the side, doing a little bit on it. And then kind of fell back into NFT trading of all things when they were having a really amazing bull run in, I guess that was 2020. I don't even remember. And then I caught all of that and had a really great time, but just did not. I called my dad one day and was laughing, and I went, I just made $7,000 trading somebody else's pictures. I don't understand anything anymore. Like, I don't know what this world is anymore. It has come so far from where I started. Like when I was an idiot on like Mount Gox and everything, that was very different. And so then I started back again on like Ethereum chains and everything, and found kind of DeFi beyond that and everything that was happening. The first, I think, big project I jumped into after like NFTs was Ohm. And then I just kept exploring from there and ended up in a Solana-based project just because gas is awful. I looked at how much gas I'd spent on Ethereum one year and went, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. So yeah, it is the Wild West, and a lot of it scares me, and a lot of it, this is a hot take, but I actually really welcome some of the regulation that will come. I know a lot of people don't want it, but I think it's necessary so that we actually have kind of ground rules into like, hey, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do, rather than just, gee, I hope the SEC doesn't notice until we're big enough to like pay fines.
Right. Yeah. I think that is like a divisive take. I think a lot of people think the opposite, but I also think it's like the other take is an unrealistic take, right? Like
exactly.
Regulation is going to come one way or another. We might as well try and welcome like the regulation that's helpful and that like maybe makes things like safer for everybody and for participants, and like doesn't mean we all wind up on like an OFAC sanctions list,
right?
Getting nuked by the Fed. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Like we've talked a lot on the show before about like those unnamed activities in 2012 that everyone was doing like as like one of the great like, I don't know, onboarding programs. Yeah. Like more people got into crypto through our friend Ross than through, pretty much anything else. Right. And so, what do you think is like the next thing there? Like if I feel like you were right in the sense like JPEG flipping in 2020 and like 2021 was like probably a huge onboarding for people. But like, if you were to guess, like just like, take a shot in the dark, what do you think the next great like onboarding is? Like what gets more normies in if it's not narcotics or like dumb fucking digital art of gorillas knockoff monkeys.
So, I mean, NFT art aside, I really think, and maybe this is just because this is my pet reason for still being here, or based on, this is going to get a hot take. Oh, God, my boss is going to kill me, but whatever. My biggest thing, I think, is honestly privacy and a lack of surveillance, because we've seen things like in America where rights are already being taken away. We just saw abortion, whether you agree with it or not, be overturned. That was something that was already enshrined in law for 50 years. It's no longer. And there's been some court decisions that have come out recently where justices have said things like they're coming for Griswold versus Connecticut. They're coming for all of, loving Virginia. And that's things like birth control and interracial marriage. So if the government can, just decide at will, I don't think people should be able to have abortions, regardless of what the people actually want, I think privacy becomes a really big thing, because I don't know if my bank is going to shut me out for buying birth control. And we already see that in places like with sex workers. I actually think sex workers and OnlyFans are a huge onboarding for the future of crypto, because sex workers are already debanked all the time and deplatformed all the time under these guises of like, oh, it's child porn and exploitation, which it's not. Obviously, it's not. There's consenting, willing adults that are doing these things because that's what they want to do. Is that the majority of them? I don't know. I'm not a sex worker, but the point is they should still have that choice. And there's a lot of banks that will not work with you if you are on OnlyFans, if you are a sex worker in any sense. And a lot of it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it will make sense to a lot of people, that they can only do things that the bank thinks are okay. Not because they're illegal or anything. There's a difference between illegal and immoral and whatever you want to talk about there, but making moral decisions about who they want to work with and why, I at this point in how finance works and how deeply necessary the financial system is, I think it's more of a human right to be able to access it, and people will any way, shape, or form that they can. And seeing people get shut off from these things because they're doing actions that the government just doesn't like, I think crypto is going to become very, very useful for that. And maybe that is being quote unquote illicit, but in an ongoing surveillance state, I don't know what else there is,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And certainly like anything that is, I mean,
it's a hot take. It's a very
no. I think it's like
topic.
I think it's like an actually like super correct take, and I think like a really logical take, because anything that is persecuted by the government or by society or by some like social arbiter or morality arbiter, I think inevitably flees to those to like find refuge in like economically safe spaces or alternative economies, right? Like I think it's unfortunate that people who are just trying to like make a living on the terms that they want or use their bodies as they want have to go to the same sources as like drug dealers or money launderers or arms dealers, what have you, or like hackers. But I mean, like it makes sense, right? Like I think the like social stigma around people exercising their free will and their choice of body autonomy to like make money, I think there's like a real driving force that will send people to crypto, which is great. I mean, like and like very much like I think crypto as a haven for people who are denied access to financial services, the traditional financial services, for whatever reason. Like that is such a cornerstone to me. Although again, like as V and I have talked about a lot before, like in our big tent party of what is crypto is like a lot of people who like hate sex workers and hate people who are, not aligned with their like insane, fucking Deus low vaults, new world crusader, masculine white nationalist identity, right? Like, it's there are people building the system alongside of us that I think are active enemies, right? And
100%, 100%. And this goes back to, I think, a lot of things that like I explore a lot, not necessarily online, but with autonomy and with access. And like I was saying, I really do feel that access to the financial system is becoming a human right. It's very, very difficult to navigate the world now if you can't have a bank account or don't have a bank account or can't access American dollars or whatever dollars you need. And regardless of who is building them, I honestly think it is better for everyone to have access, even people who shouldn't, than it is for people to not have access who should.
Right.
And that means that some of our enemies are gonna be friends. It's completely fucked. It doesn't have to be this way, but it is this way because of politics. I mean, if you really want to get into it, that's what it comes down to, is things like, if you look at it from a completely weirdly different perspective, if you think about things like embargoes on Cuba, they're not helpful. There's really a lot of questions if any embargoes that we've put on any country or any sort of sanctions have been particularly helpful or useful for anybody, except for making, the people suffer. Those things don't work, but we still do them because, there's a group of people that have decided that this is a political thing that they want to make their issue.
An effective, and in their eyes, an effective political tool, when reality is much more.
Right. I mean, the stated point of them is to get a nation or a state to do something other than, what they're doing, because it's what you want them to do without having to go to war. And what that really means is people are making other people suffer. And it's not the people that, like, they should be targeting, right? Like, high ups in Russia, for example, they're still moving their money around. You're just hurting the Russian people. It doesn't matter. So it's a political stunt, and it's cutting off a human right, in my eyes, for policy. And I think, as the world gets more and more polarized, not less, I think we're going to see it happen more. And I think people are going to need crypto. We can just be like, hey, guess what? We had to cut that because
although to be honest, like we stitch together a lot of these all the time. Like there are many, I mean, a lot of this is us. Like
when I have I have a behind the scenes video I've been working on, and life has just gotten complicated recently, but I was gonna put that as a call as well. It's like, here's what we use. If you have something better, please suggest.
Please, for the love of God.
Please help.
It's certainly when it started, I think like the first 4 episodes were recorded with like a Discord bot, and then it was just me learning to edit in Audacity. And like I listened back to those episodes, I'm like, these are fucking wretched. Oh my God.
And then trying to figure out like the ideal platform too, like the first one I did with Carnation. I was like, what do you mean you can't record a Twitter Spaces from a computer? You have to do it from a phone? This sucks.
That is kind of garbage. Yeah,
this is so dumb.
That is kind of garbage, actually. There's been more than one point where I've been like, I should get a job at Twitter as a PM just to fix the things that bother me and then leave.
There was a guy who did that. There was some dude who went and like, there was like a vulnerability or something that annoyed him, and he literally got a job at this company, fixed it, and then immediately quit. Which like salute, like respects for the commitment. A person like me would just suffer with it forever because like I would just like
switching costs are high on that one.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Bullshit trying to get through to the point where you can fix the problem. And
imagine going through like 5 months of like web tech onboarding and like fucking fake like corporate kumbaya shit just to like try and get to fix one thing.
Like, I mean, I would let Twitter pay me for 6 months to onboard me. To be online all day.
I know some onboarding hoppers, and they are the best. I mean, that's really it. Like they've got it figured out.
That is the dream, isn't it?
I was gonna say though, really quick, like just like unironically, like what you were talking about, Birb, like the meme is true. Like Bitcoin fixes this.
It really is.
And like crypto fixes this. But by contrast, I would also say like anytime we've seen like the like digitization of money and what that did for like alternative economies, which is a blanket term I'm going to use for everything from sex work or like paying somebody when you don't want the government to know, or just like having
great at black markets,
right like any of these alternative economies. Like the minute that got digitized, everyone was like, wow, this is great. And then here we are, like Venmo being like, you have to tell me what you're sending, $200, whatever.
Right.
And so I think like definitely by the time regulation catches up, I think the only difference is like privacy is more baked into the blockchain and more baked into this system than it is to like any alternative that we've had. But I don't know, like, you want to talk about like, FinCEN is like, the travel rule is in effect on Ethereum transfers, right? Like KYC information is being transmitted already on crypto payment. And it's so funny seeing people be like, still thinking that we're in the true Wild West, which not that we're not, but it's like certainly behind the scenes through like so many infrastructural providers, there is so much more happening than the average
100%
is aware of. And so I do think like as to take like a middle road, like as much as I think regulation is good for a lot of reasons, I think if we allow ourselves to become complacent, we're just going to get rugged again. Like when we had, when we first got the iPhone apps that let you send money. And now here we are, people getting like their doors kicked in by IRS agents over Cash App purchases or whatever. Like, I think,
has that actually happened? Do we know that?
No, no. And I said that with like, what the really good thing is about like the unearned confidence of a white man. It's like, just like I said that, and I was like, that's probably happened once, and no one was going to say anything about it. I don't think it's far off. I think like
I don't think it's far off. We did just arm the IRS, didn't we?
As much as like
80,000 or whatever. Agents.
Yeah, it's like a libertarian meme, but it's like, yeah, do you really think they need 87,000 IRS?
I actually do. I actually do. And here's why. No, I'm dead serious on this. ProPublica did a whole bunch of articles on this, and they're really interesting. If anybody reading or whatever wants them, message me. I'll send them to you. They did a giant audit and basically found that the lowest bracket of earning income people, the poorest people, were getting audited at a higher rate than the richest people. And it's because they don't have the force or time or ability to get into these incredibly complex cases that come with having $100 million. They have, however, on the other hand, a bunch of people who can go, earned income credit, you didn't really earn that, boom, we're keeping your tax refund. So it's so much easier to go after the easy ones than it is to go after these incredibly complicated and, lawyered up teams for people.
For lawyers, for sure, is a computer.
Yeah, I don't know. 87,000 motherfuckers with guns to like, right, this isn't like you're putting together like a legal strike team or you're like establishing an entirely new division, right? Like I think there is something to that.
The guns are probably not great.
Right, the lowest hanging fruit, like you're going to pick, and that's like me, who like for a long time was just like not reporting the cash I made in my life, and then like they came for me, and I was like, shit, well, you did get me. Like, but I think there is something like the expansion of any type of like agent. Well, I'm about to like inadvertently, I'm about to inadvertently become like the person I hate, but like because I actually like big government.
Kids on a conservative arc.
Yeah, this is my new libertarian arc. Seatbelts are fascism. The age of consent has to be abolished. I should be allowed to drink raw milk.
Yeah, I should be able to click in my girlfriend's oh my god, this would be so much funnier if I couldn't fucking
stop. It's cool. Do you want to take another run up at the bed?
You can cut that, right? You can totally cut
as many takes as you want. Sincerely, we can edit.
There's the joke about like being able to click in your girlfriend's I can't think of the word. Oh my god.
So good that second go take it one more again. Take it one more again.
What's the word for when you put a child in a seat thingy when you're in a car?
A child
safety buckle?
Sorry. A booster
car seat. A car seat.
Yeah, okay. A car seat.
Yeah, I should be able to, not have to strap in my girlfriend's car seat.
Pretty good payoff, I will say. It was pretty.
Thank you. I'm going to blame that all on the cold medicine.
Yeah, just robo tripping. I mean, okay, right. It's cringe, but it's just crazy when there's like all of a sudden like almost 90,000 new people with guns. And
on the other hand, that is 90,000 new jobs.
Thank you, Joe Byron. That's another...
Dark Biden.
Okay, but this praising of like 90,000 fuckers with guns, are we really picturing them like there's a SWAT team outside the house and he's like,
no,
Joe, bring out your tax returns. Everything's gonna be fine. Don't make
number one. I don't know if you saw the training videos. These motherfuckers are not kicking down. These are not. Well, no, I guess, and that's even more my point, right? It's like you're not looking for entire cadres of like former financial investigators or in-house lawyers or fucking people who decided to flip from the private to the public, right? Like these are,
no, but it does free up the people that have been there doing the low level stuff and have some experience now to go after higher earners.
I'm so happy if I get proven wrong on this, and I feel like it is the like Twitter brain poison, but I feel like this is just like a bad thing and it's going to get worse.
It probably is. I'm just trying to be optimistic about something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
There's not a lot out there that I'm optimistic about at this current point in time, and maybe we've just caught me on a bad week, but
take the small wins.
I mean,
take the small wins.
I don't know.
Small wins.
I worked with somebody who used to work at the DoD in what they described as like economic alternative warfare, and I was like, that is the most evil sounding shit
that
I've
sounds
ever heard in my life.
So evil.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you deploy sanctions, or how do you like economically depress a population, or how do you like use tariffs, like X, Y, and Z? And so, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, the U.S. government is set up for this
of course they are,
right, that we exist in, and it feels like 90,000 agents. Wink, we promise we'll get the guys this time. 227 whatever years. Like, hey, this time though, these 90,000 randos off the street that we armed are really gonna get Jeff Bezos to pay his fucking taxes.
Maybe I'm being idealistic. That's a fair point. I don't really think they need guns.
I would like it if that was the case, right?
Like, I would like it if that was the case. I would honestly even be happy if they could go after just more of anybody but the poorest people. There's another ProPublic article out there about how basically you are the most like they looked at zip codes and said, based on how this is all set up, this should be relatively the same across the country. Like, if you live somewhere, it shouldn't matter your likelihood of getting audited. You have the highest likelihood of getting audited in the United States if you live in the state of Mississippi.
Shocking.
Because Mississippi is the poorest state.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the zip code, postal code lottery, right, like, is true across so many things. And I would be very surprised. I don't think that these IRS agents are going to go to like the like HVAC repair owner Trump guys who are living like that moderately well top 9% life. I think they're probably going to be deployed against people who are in the lowest income bracket, people who are in the most disenfranchised communities, and people who are like already struggling and maybe engaged in alternative economies. And the government would like that money that they are like earning, right, to be paid into that.
I would just like it if anyone in the Northeast actually got audited. I think I just sent you the link to it. The map is really striking.
I mean, I grew up in Maine, so no, I don't think that should be the case. I think
okay.
Map looks good to me. I think
map looks completely fine.
It looks like the South is getting decimated, which,
well, when you think about where the Black and poor people live,
right? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's the audit as like a tool of like domestic economic oppression and like terror. I think it's like no surprise, and certainly like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll compromise. I will be cautiously optimistic about it, but then when I'm right,
when you're right, I will come back on here and say you were totally right. You can totally take you can take a whole victory lap. You can just sit there and say I was right, and I'll go, you were right. Like, I don't have an ego about it. It's totally fine.
Like, the only reason I argued the point was like, I just want to know that I said it so that for posterity I look like I knew what I was talking about.
Man, I don't have any ego about admitting if I was right or wrong. People think they're gonna get me on some like sort of gotcha about stuff, and I'm like, oh, so it turns out I was an idiot. What are we shocked by? Like, oh no, local area woman was wrong. More at 11. Like, I don't know. But yeah, no, speaking of Maine, tell me your thoughts on interior Maine.
I'm not gonna. The part of the state that should be wiped clean from, like, I don't know. I grew up. I don't know. I'm not gonna dox very much, but I did not grow up in like interior Maine. I grew up in coastal developed Maine.
Where they won't shoot you for like being on their property and the roads have been paved since 1945.
Yeah, where no one's drinking hand sanitizer and unironically doing jankum and like
interior Maine creeps me out.
It's really crazy. I will say, like, of the two types of like wild Maine, island Maine is so much better because you can still like kill somebody for touching your lobster trap, which is actually like like based and like interesting. And then like interior Maine is just like the farthest north that you're ever going to see a Confederate flag in your life. And then there's like coastal Maine, which is essentially just like
normal.
Well, the definition of like those like white coastal elites, like it is
100%.
I mean, the Bushes go up to Kennebunkport every year, so
I spend a lot of time in like northern Vermont, and I like to travel, so I've gone through like New Hampshire into Maine, and we drove from I almost just docked something. We drove from northern Vermont to Portland, Maine, and we had to go through interior Maine to get there. And we didn't see signs for Portland until we were 9 miles outside of Portland.
Yeah, they don't want you to go there.
They don't want you to go there.
Because Portland is like really, honestly, like maybe the best place in America. Like I love Portland so much.
Portland is really cool.
It is it's definitely at war with the rest of it. You know, it's kind of like Michigan with like not socioeconomically, but like in terms of like values and beliefs. Like it's like Detroit and the rest of Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like this very staunchly like blue, socially liberal place, and then it's surrounded like you drive like 10 minutes, 15 minutes out, and it's, you know,
banjos.
Yeah,
and I can say that because I'm from Florida and Alabama.
Yeah,
like
it's nice to have a Southerner on, because otherwise, you know, I can't say that. Someone would say I was being classist.
No, okay. In all honesty, I actually called my mom after I went there, and I went, "You're not going to believe this." She goes, "What?" I went through interior Maine, and it's just cold Stop Choppy. And she goes, "Oh, Stop Choppy for..." Yeah. I was like, it's just cold, like southern stuff. That's all it is. Stop Choppy is a very, very, very small, poor fishing town near where I grew up. There are like 8 people on the planet who would be like, I know where that is. But it's like very run down. Like there's no money. There's no nothing. It's just these old shacks like on the way to the beach.
And it is the name of the...
It's the Maine of the South. Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, don't say that. Come on now.
I don't know. At least we have nice beaches.
I mean, yeah. I mean, literally not as nice as, you know. Whatever. I'm not here. I mean, that's a crazy thing. I mean, I guess Florida, like, yeah.
Yeah, you really can't argue with Florida beaches.
The like most beautiful beach in the world.
Right.
Like which is like the one W. I didn't mean that. I actually like Florida. I didn't mean to say that shit. That's.
I take it all back. No, honestly, Florida is now that I don't. It's a nice place to be from.
Yeah, it's also now. I mean, like it's such like a weird crypto hub.
Oh, it's
and, like,
so weird now.
Be in Florida, and it's also like American Christian like Sharia law land. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's like all of the like libertarian tech bros, all of the Brantleys can move down there and just establish their like neo-Christian paradise. And enjoy the beautiful beach where they'll get sunburned due to their lack of melanin.
Yeah, lots of thoughts on that subject. My biggest one is really just that there's no real way that Miami in particular is going to be able to avoid the sea level rising. They can't build more because the Atlantic, like the continental shelf drops off like very quickly. So there's no room for anyone to go anywhere. So everyone buying real estate in Miami right now, like, I really hope they figure something out in the next 10 years. Otherwise, it's going to be a really bad investment. You know, they really should have picked anywhere else. And
I mean, living fucking grim. Jesus Lord.
Yeah, it's really bad. So I say that as someone growing up in Florida. Like, it's not good, and you still get hurricanes that come down there and wipe out everything. Like, we just had a Category 5. It was a couple years ago at this point, admittedly. Hurricane Michael, which most people have entirely forgotten about because it didn't hit a populated part of Florida. It wiped Mexico Beach, which is pretty near and dear to where I grew up, off the face of the planet. Like, does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing you can do about that. Like, my parents left Miami after Hurricane Andrew because going through a Category 5 means that there's just not much there. Like, my mom to this day tells a story about how they didn't have like electricity or anything for like 3 months. And the first time she got to bite into a cold tomato, she like cried. Why do you want to live where that's a
very evocative. I also just like the idea of someone just like cracking into a tomato. Like it's
my mom's a weirdo.
No, I mean that's cool. I would do the same thing, but that's a great. You know, it's actually, I guess it's funny. Like it feels like very few people. Or, well, maybe there's an even split. Like a lot of people in crypto either come from like very developed like hubs of like technology and like culture and whatnot. And then like, yeah, a lot of people come from like literally like the boonies and their crypto was like their escape. Do you feel like you fall into kind of that latter category? I mean, you said you made the decision to be to like not be broke anymore, right?
Yeah, I do feel I fall more into the latter category than the former. I think that we will start to see more of the latter category, but I mean, if you really want to talk about, people being from like poor areas and things like that, America's not poor. Like, we have poverty, we have bad things, but I really think that the biggest help, and this was something that actually Bill Clinton was talking about at Crypto Bahamas, was that he's really excited to see what crypto can do in places like Africa. And I think that is the coolest idea. I have no idea how it's going to work. I think we probably have to get them some internet first, and I'm being a little hopeful.
For all the conspiracy theorists, weird reply guys, they're like, she mentioned the Clintons.
Yeah, no, you should just leave it like that. You should just leave it like that, and then when it cuts off, be like, so anyway. And just go on to talking about something else that I'd like completely off topic. I think that would be a very good bit.
We'll just put in something like, this section was redacted.
You just title the episode Seth Rich or whoever that intern that guy was.
Oh God. So there are actually some people replied with some questions if you guys feel like asking them.
We actually also got a bunch of questions as well. We got a lot, and you probably get this one all the time. What's the deal with the sky burial thing, Birb? What's the deal?
Okay, I love when people ask me about this, because in case you guys hadn't noticed, autonomy and bodily autonomy are two very important topics to me.
What?
Yeah, I know. Shocker. Really I do not like anybody else telling me what to do with my body.
Really good. Really good. Really good.
Yeah. So anyway, this whole thing, I'm going to back up and start in a very weird place instead. My two most strongly held beliefs are actually things I read on cardboard signs. Legalize sky burials is one of them. No more whirligigs on the Green Mountains is the other one, and we can talk about that after, because that's a lot of words. But I saw the sign, and I was like, what does that even mean? And I went around and was like Googling it, and in America, you actually can't pick what you want to do with your body after you die. You can't get your skull like encrusted in jewels. You can't leave it on a kitchen counter. You can't give your femur to your friend. You can be buried, you can be cremated. That's basically it. Or you can donate your body to science. There are a couple of body farms. Tennessee has a really good one, the University of Tennessee, where they study like decomp. So if you give them your body, they will put it in a field in Tennessee and just watch what happens. It's disgusting. But there's this concept of sky burials that is very, very important to people in like Nepal, where the body is just a vessel. Once your soul is gone from it, the body serves no purpose. So what they do is they just bring it into the woods and, give it back to the earth. So sometimes they put it on these like high platforms so that birds can eat it. Sometimes it's just left in a clearing. Sometimes it's left in woods so that it returns to nature. Stuff eats it. It is consumed by the elements. You can't do that.
Tree pod burial things.
You can't even do that. The tree pod burial, I'm not entirely sure on. That seems like it's running afoul of some of the laws. Not 100%. Don't really know. Someone will probably go, well, actually, me on that one. Either way, you cannot have a sky burial.
The tree eats you, right? The tree eats you. It feels like you're gonna. That's not the right term. The tree breaks you down. But I mean, a sky burial seems like a no-brainer. I should be allowed to like be up on a rock somewhere, getting consumed by like scavenger birds. Well, like, that feels like my right.
That feels like my right. And the worst part about that is, if anybody helps you, that's illegal.
This is really the start of my libertarian arc. I'm really agreeing with this. I'm like,
it's like an assisted suicide thing.
Yeah. So like, unless you choose to wait until you are super old, and unless you either A, know when you're going to die, which if that's the case, why are you letting yourself die? You have powers that the rest of us could really help, use. B, you're just going to crawl out into the woods and starve to death. That's an awful death. That is very uncomfortable. You will die not of starvation, but of thirst. And that is way worse if you don't die by the elements first. Nobody wants to die that way. So, you have to have someone take your body out there. You can't just die in the middle of the woods. That feels like it should be my right and anybody who wants to help me right. But it's illegal because it's mutilation of a corpse.
Huh.
Yep. So that's what the legalizing sky burials is about. It's not nearly as fun as people think.
It's a much more direct stance.
Right? Like, it's pretty freaking direct. Yeah, people are like, it's gotta mean something really weird. I'm like, no, it means exactly what it says. Like, it's on the tin. Like, a weird tin, but a tin nonetheless. The other one, since I brought it up, is the no more whirligigs on the Green Mountains. They are putting lots and lots of wind power to use in northern Vermont. And boy, this one is going to piss people off. It ruins the views, it ruins the mountains, it ruins the people that actually happen to live up there, and Vermont doesn't need the capacity for it. They don't have enough people in the state. They're just putting them there so that they don't have to put them where more people live. And they're not putting them where more people live because guess what? It ruins the views there too. So they're building all of these windmills that, like, the people that live up there, they're like very fiercely conservative of their wildlife and of their nature. And if you've ever been to northern Vermont, like, it's beautiful. It should be preserved. It's special. There's no reason for them to be putting windmills on top of the mountains. The people that live there say that they can hear it all the time. It affects the trees. It affects the plants. It affects animals. Like, there's no reason for it because it's for future capacity. For who? The state of Vermont. There's like less. It's one of the least populated states in the country. Why are they building future capacity they don't need? So no more whirligigs on the Green Mountains. That's my other really, really deeply held
stance. These are such like niche issues.
Comes off kind of not because NIMBYism is a totally different thing, but NIMBY, like, NIMBY, not on my Green Mountains.
It is a little NIMBYism. However, you can put windmills in the ocean just fine. I've seen it. Amsterdam, all of the Netherlands does it. You could put them anywhere else. They don't need to be in those mountains.
Yeah, offshore wind power needs to,
especially when
pick up traction.
The only real industry in northern Vermont is tourism for the nature. There's nothing else up there. If you've ever been anywhere up there, it's untouched by major industry for the most part. And the nature and the skiing and the outdoorsman-ness of it is the draw that keeps their state economy pretty much functioning. So it's ruining that for capacity that they don't need for people that don't live there. Seems illogical to me.
I like these feel like very local issues.
They are. Like, they totally are.
Like this is like a very city council ordinance meeting type of thing. Like, I have 2 points I would like to make. The first one, I would like to be able to be eaten by birds when I die. The second one,
don't put any more goddamn whirligigs on my mountains.
Yes, don't put the whirligigs so the birds can be there to eat my body. Like,
listen, that just means local government is extremely important, and it really doesn't just boil down to who the president is. You should be voting in all elections that you can because your state and local representatives matter a whole lot more.
Yeah, that's the slogan that's pushed is like vote local, think global. You gotta start locally to.
Yeah, so do I have niche interests? Absolutely. Am I very passionate about them? Also, yes. So that's what that one is about.
Speaking of niche interests, this one comes from the shout out to the West Ham group chat. Really good detailed question. And I think kind of a genius mind behind it. Birb, what is your favorite plant?
That is an incredibly hard question.
Yeah.
I actually got denied from a Facebook group about rare plants because I couldn't answer that question. They literally the only question there were like 3 questions for entry to make sure you like weren't a bot, and 2 of them were like yes, no's, and then the last question was what is your favorite plant? And I literally wrote, I have so many, how am I supposed to pick one? This isn't a fair question. And they said you can't be in the group.
What question to be elitist on? What?
That feels like the type of person you would want in the group is someone who's so overcome by the choices of different types of plants that they're like, how could I possibly pick?
There's also one in the room now, so I feel like if I didn't pick him, he'd be upset.
Oh
yeah. That's a really good question. That might be the hardest question I actually get.
As an aside, because I feel like you were the person who, it was like a while back on Twitter, but was it when we were in one of the segments of the bear market and was like, okay, crypto people, like start posting about your other hobbies, and then you started posting about plants or something?
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah. I actually have 53 houseplants. Yeah. I needed something that wasn't just sitting inside staring at the internet, and my mom has a really good green thumb, so I just started buying some plants and figuring it out, and I guess a year and a half later, here I am.
There you go.
Yeah. I would say I really, really like the every answer I give is just going to be so basic.
Could you broaden it to say like a certain type of plant?
This shouldn't be this hard. I'm really sorry.
Really, it's like serving it up. Like you could just, and you know what the best thing is? Like no one would know, right? Like no one would call you on it. No one would fact check. Well, I feel like I jinxed it. Some reply guy would like stitch this part, and then you'd say this is your plant at a different time.
So it's gonna go back to your Twitter and be like, "No, you posted really happily about this plant. Are you sure
exactly.
This one?"
I actually had a guy who like I diagnosed one of my plants. I fixed it. I posted about what the problem was, and they were like, "How are you sure that's the problem? Have you thought about all of these other things?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, how do you know?" And I was like, "Because I have thermometers in my living room. Like, what do you mean? How do I know? Like, it fixed it." And they were like, "Oh, well, it's just a really rare thing. So I'm wondering, maybe it could be something else." And I'm like, "It's not." Because what had happened was I have a pothos. It's this really big, like, trailing plant. And I had cut him back so that he could grow more fuller plant. Like, they will not just grow where you cut them, they'll grow other places too. So they become fuller that way. And I'd cut him, and then he'd been in this dirt like a year, so he was running out of nutrients. And I didn't fertilize it right after, so it grew like a foot of just like vine. Like no leaf, just vine. And then I fertilized it, and it started growing leaves again, and I went, oh, the problem was that I didn't fertilize. Seems pretty simple. So I cut it and fertilized it, and then the guy was like, how are you sure that that's the problem? I was like, because nothing else changed. He was like, well, do you not get temperature fluctuations throughout the seasons? And I was like, well, this happened in the same season. What are you talking about? He's like, well,
is this someone who was like an expert? It'd be one thing if it was someone like coming like, oh, I know about this and play like suggesting, but
everyone is an expert on the internet.
How do you know? Well, how do you know? I don't know, but how do you know?
I don't know, because I was just like, I don't really know if you're trying to argue with me or not. I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, because I've already done it, and this is already how it's been fixed. Like, this isn't something I'm wondering about. This is something I already did. And I think they had like a plant startup or something, so like maybe they were trying to help and it just came off really weird. I don't know. People get really weird tones with me too, which is another thing. They're either overly familiar or like very, very rude and then don't think they're being rude. Very strange. I guess if I really had to pick, I really like pothos. And it's such a basic plant, but it's so cool. Because you get all these different varieties. They do all sorts of different things. And I also really like monsteras because they have holes. No one knows real why. It's they have theories about why, because they grow on like forest floors and jungle floors, so they spread out and that allows them to get light. But that doesn't really make sense, because why would you have a hole if you could just have a whole plant that could get light?
Just have more surface area.
You should just take the next hour and just get like obscure plant theories as to why
the way they are. If you want one of those, if you want one of those, have you guys heard about the thing where like convergent evolution, where basically everything turns into crabs?
Yeah. There's only one step and it's you become a crab.
So the same thing is true in plants about trees.
Everything becomes a tree eventually?
Trees aren't real. They're just giant plants.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that one's kind of,
No, like in the sense that like an oak tree has more in common with like hops than it does with like a dogwood tree.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so trees are plant crabs, basically. And I woke my boyfriend up at. Yeah, everyone's gonna be so upset to hear that I have a boyfriend. You should cut that. Don't talk about it. It would ruin my brand.
We don't want to put someone's life at risk.
Talk about who?
Thank you. No, I'm actually asking. It's part of the bit. It's much easier if the internet doesn't know I have a boyfriend.
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
We'll timestamp that one.
Yeah. Although I did wake him up just since we're already here. I woke him up in the middle of the night yelling, trees are just plant crabs, and he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because he'd never heard about the crab thing.
Oh, God.
The crab thing is so... I mean, I can't wait until we all turn into crabs.
I look forward to being a crustacean. I really do.
Did you have any other good crowdsourced questions?
I didn't necessarily have a crowdsourced one, but I did have one. I wanted to ask about the potato thing.
Oh, what about it?
Well, like where? Because I spotted the thread, and I'm just curious about it. Like, elaborate, and here's a moment if you want to.
God, okay. So first of all, it was part of a study. I didn't just go about eating potatoes because I felt like it. Slime time, mold time. Or slime mold, time mold, something like that. I always get their name wrong. I'm just gonna have to look it up. Hold on. Slime mold, time mold. I don't know why I always get that wrong. Sorry, guys. They do a bunch of really interesting, just like in-depth research about random shit. And they have this really whole long, fascinating set of articles about obesity and why it's happening, and if it was just as easy as calories in, calories out, why no country on the planet has been able to reverse their obesity epidemic. And one of the things it comes down to is basically higher concentrations of lithium in the groundwater. And that's for like a number of reasons. You should really go read their articles. They're super long and super interesting. They're basically a book. I could not possibly begin to explain everything in them. But like even animals are getting fatter. That wouldn't make sense if it was just, calories in, calories out. So one of the things they've theorized is that like, well, maybe it's contamination, and maybe, there's all these like anecdotes out there about potatoes where like people ate nothing but potatoes and dropped all this weight. Maybe there's a connection there, and you don't really know unless you try. And it's not like there's any studies on this, right?
Like, research, yeah.
Right. So they're doing kind of guerrilla science, if you will. And I was interested, so I did it. And honestly, not only did it work, I haven't gained a single pound back, and it has been 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a whole convoluted theory about how there's something called like a liposat. So in your brain, like, this makes much more sense if I use a metaphor here, but like your body knows how fat you should be. It's not just like you're a dumb thing. It's just eating food and shitting it out. Like your body has ways of dumping energy that aren't just excretion. There's things like twitching and how much you move around and things like that, and your hunger levels. So it's kind of like having a thermostat. So if you set the thermostat in your house to 120, you could open some windows and like get some ice and like bang on it until it doesn't work as well, but like your house is still going to be hot, and you're just going to have to try harder and harder to like keep it cool because the temperature's set so high. So some of what they've theorized is about like, well, what's making our, lipostat or our temperature so high, and how do we bring it down?
Genetics, perhaps? Like a genetic?
Well, the idea of the lithium is actually that like we know for a fact that therapeutic doses of lithium will make you gain weight. We have that because they give lithium to bipolar patients. Mm-hmm. So there's like this whole lot of things. There's a lot of argument about if like that they're right or not. I don't really care about any of that because quite honestly, it worked for me. So something is happening there, and I think they have a point, and I think they're onto something, because I basically ate nothing but potatoes for 3.5 weeks, and I lost, as of right now, 15 pounds.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I ate French fries for 3 meals a day.
This is like our Joe Rogan segment.
It really is. I know it sounds like I'm such a fucking crazy libertarian once you start talking to me. Oh my god! But
wow, that's crazy. V, can you pull that up? Can you pull up how many potatoes people are eating? You guys seen one of these things? It's called a potato. It's
can you pull that up? People are eating them. Man. It's fucking wild. It's turning the frogs gay. No, but so literally one day I had McDonald's French fries for breakfast, Nando's French fries for lunch, Wendy's French fries for dinner. I'm sorry, any diet that says that I can eat French fries all of my meals in a day, I'm gonna fucking try.
Like, yeah.
Like, I've done all sorts of crazy weight diets. I was a coxswain at a D1 college. Like, I had a weight limit there. I've done all of the crazy weight stuff you have to do. Nothing has ever been as easy as this one was. I wasn't hungry. I barely needed to eat. And yeah, I get that there's some calorie in, calorie out there, but like, I wasn't hungry. I wasn't thinking about food. If I wanted food, guess what? I was eating potato. So it was really easy in the sense that like I didn't have to think about what I was going to eat. I could go anywhere. No one looks at you weird at the bar if you order, a vodka soda and 3 orders of French fries. It's the easiest diet in the world.
I would definitely. As somebody who used to like work behind a bar for a very long time, like if somebody did that once, maybe I might not say anything. The second time, I would stop everything around me. I would be like, I need to know exactly what you're doing. I need to know what's going on. I need.
She's
to
the
know...
regular who orders the 5 orders of French fries every night.
Yeah. The bartender near my house did ask once. Yeah, it's fine. It's totally cool. Wasn't weird. No, actually, it was great. But like, no one. You could have potato vodka. It's fine. And they really say like the only thing they ask you to really stay away from is dairy, and that's not a problem for me. Because like I said, I have a cow's milk allergy. I wasn't putting cheese on my potatoes anyway.
I was gonna say, yeah, I could see that for people who, yeah.
I could see it. I could see how that would be hard.
Can you put condiments on the potatoes?
Yes.
So you can have like ketchup.
Yes.
Or like, I guess not. Yeah, mayonnaise.
No, mayonnaise would be.
Yeah. I had mayonnaise. I put sriracha on stuff. Yeah, I used the peri-peri sauce all the time. Absolutely.
You could pretty much just have like loaded French fries, just minus the cheese in your case.
Well, I mean, except maybe the bacon, I guess.
Within reason. Within reason.
Although, admittedly, part of what they said is that they didn't want a diet that only worked if you were like super controlled or in a lab, because that's not a diet that works in real life.
Yeah, you need real world conditions to...
Right, so real world conditions where if you're hungry and there's no potatoes, or you can't stomach another potato, eat something else. If 100% potato works, 90% potato probably works. And I'm not gonna lie, I had 3 days I cheated where I didn't eat a single potato. I had 2 other days where I ate something else other than a potato. I still lost 15 pounds. It still hasn't come back. It's been 2 months. I didn't change anything else after I stopped the diet. I just like went back to what I was doing before. Doesn't that mean some of that weight should have come back? I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying, as someone who's only ever tried to gain weight, I'm like, is there the opposite?
I was gonna say, it's like I feel like this is with the 2 people who really do not.
Like, I know it's not. You guys don't need to lose any weight.
We're both stick people.
Yeah, if Kits lost more weight, he might die. But
Kids, please.
Maybe you should just start taking high doses of lithium. I don't know. Please don't do that.
Oh, there we go.
Good. Isn't that what they used to like treat people with severe
bipolar? Yes,
bipolar. Yeah,
that's good. I should get on that.
Well, so it's actually been really crazy because my entire life I've had like really serious bouts of depression. We're not sure if I've ever been manic. Maybe hypomania. Not sure, but I've had really, really bad episodes like clockwork of just massive, insane amounts of depression. And that was the one thing that actually started happening while I was on potato, was that like by the end of the 3rd week, I was having like breakdowns like every day.
Oh.
I was like, literally there was one night I was sitting there, I was folding the laundry and I couldn't fold a shirt in the way that like my brain was happy with. And it wasn't like a rational response. And I've dealt with this long enough to know like the difference between my brain being an asshole and me. And I was folding the shirt and couldn't get it right, and my brain just goes, you should kill yourself, you're useless at this. And I was like, holy shit, that's not good.
Okay, it's nice to hear someone else say that, because I have that thought like pretty much all the time. I'm like, you know what, might as well just end it all.
It became sort of this like background thought of, you're not very good at this, you should just kill yourself. Like, that's not okay. Like, if you feel that way, you should get some help. Seriously. So that actually leads me to believe that like maybe that lowered lithium that I was getting. And there's also the fact that there is a mechanism between potassium and lithium, where the more potassium you have, it clears lithium more effectively. So if there was lithium gunked up in all of our brains and I just ate a whole bunch of potassium that's in potatoes and all of a sudden I'm sad and lose a bunch of weight, seems pretty, convincing to me. But again, data is different than an anecdote. I am one data point. So.
Speaking
do
of
we have that as a... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, B.
I was going to say, do we have that as like, you have people with all the different medications, like side effects, and I was like, do we have that with... I don't know that we have that as extensively with, maybe I haven't been paying attention, but like with diets, like, going on this diet increases your odds of depression for...
No, so not only that, this is actually something serious to me. I have a lot of friends who have been through medical school. They only really have to take like 1 semester of nutrition at all to become a doctor.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. No one looks at the foods we eat. No one looks at kind of what we're putting in our body. They just go, your brain's bad, here's a pill. And admittedly, that not all doctors are like that. I'm sure I'll get flamed for that one, whatever. I've been through the medical system my entire life because I've had a lot of things wrong with me. It took me 3 years and 2 organ failure and an endoscopy and a colonoscopy and an oncologist and an ENT for me to discover that I had a milk allergy. Don't talk to me about the medical system. Like,
you're probably in a position to say more common than not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I know what I'm talking about this. So, you know, people, like, when I first started having issues, because I'm also diagnosed with celiac, because I would not have made it past the age of 7 if this was like 1901. The first doctor I went to actually had me keep like a food log. And then he looked at it one day and goes, you know, if I ate a burrito, my stomach would hurt afterwards too. And I was like, I don't think you get what's going on here, buddy. So, yeah. Medical system kind of fucked up. Could use some help. And actually, that's not entirely fair. There is some known mechanisms between like MAOI inhibitors and like grapefruit, for example. So if you're on like a certain class of medication, you cannot eat certain foods because it'll interact with it. And like this charcoal fad that's going around where like everybody's putting all this black stuff in their food. That's really bad for you because that's what they use in the emergency room to like purge things out of your system when you've like
I've always
overdosed.
been so suspicious of
stomach
the charcoal
pumping
thing,
kind
and now
of.
it's nice to know that there's like a grounding for it.
Yeah, the charcoal, it will make like your birth control not work if you're on birth control. So don't eat the charcoal foods. It makes your medicine not work.
I mean, this is like a mean transition. But speaking of birth control,
okay. Speaking of birth control,
sneaking charcoal into the birth control.
No, from the kind of people who have it naturally is. What is your favorite anime of all time? That is like our most requested thing, but specifically a bunch of people said we need to know the answers so that we know if Birb is a LARP or not.
How do I answer this?
An answer.
No, there is an answer. It's just not the answer I think anybody's going to expect. When I went to college, like I already said, I reinvented myself as someone that went outside. That meant I didn't talk about anime, look at anime, or pretend I knew what anime was. I haven't watched or read a manga since I was in high school. I did read a lot of manga. I am not going to tell you which ones. I will say, I don't even know if this technically counts as an anime. Can I just say Akira and we leave it at that?
That's fine. That's fine. That's like an easy, that's a safe, you can pass the buck on that one.
Or like,
no one's going to question that.
Or like, I grew up like sneaking into my family room to watch Konami at night and like watching Inuyasha and watching like Full Metal Alchemist. Like,
also safe answers. I feel like Full Metal Alchemist, you can get away with a lot. If you're like, that's my favorite anime, people will be like, yep, 100% and keep it moving.
Full Metal Alchemist or Akira, honestly.
Good. I mean, that's fine. The case is closed. Now, of course, like someone is going to like DM you being like, oh, really? Why don't you name every character and every scene?
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Popular enough where, okay, anyone could say it, or like obscure enough where, okay, you have such an extensive knowledge.
Nobody could call you.
So like, what's an unacceptable answer then?
It's got to be. I mean, it's like it's one that's like super cringe. I mean, like no one should say that like Bleach is their favorite anime, right? Because that's so popular.
Naruto. Saying
like,
Naruto,
like,
probably.
Right. Like you can be like, it's too common. It's like, that's just like you can like it. Favorite is so crazy. Or though, if someone was like, my favorite anime is Monster, you'd be like, you're a try-hard and you like are trying to be too literal. Or if it's like, just like if it's some like isekai nonsense and it's like you in life, you hate women. It's like
I also really like Ghost in the Shell and like Gundam stuff.
See,
like
Ghost in the Shell,
not LARPing.
Ghost in the Shell is a perfect answer. It hits all the bases. No one is going to say anything.
Right? Like, also, like, if you think I'm here because I'm LARPing, I'm not LARPing. I'm just not interested in anime as much as I'm interested in state control over my body.
Yeah.
I'm here because I'm more on the side of, like, state surveillance, not because I like a 2D waifu. Like, just because I was on 4chan in 2008 and know who Moot is, doesn't mean I have to like anime.
That's a really polarizing thing to say. I think that maybe will be the most controversial thing.
People are going to be like, questionable priorities here.
She doesn't like the waifu titties.
I do have to bounce, but please feel free to continue in my absence.
No, this is probably a good place to cut it. My voice is starting to hurt.
Okay. Well,
if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you want, Kits, if you have to, I can wrap up with like our standard wrap up questions.
Do the standard, and thank you for your time, Birb.
Cool. Yeah, this was fun. This was really fun. Yeah, I can't wait for everyone to make fun of me.
No, you'll be fine. All right, I'll see you later.
All right, see you later.
We've got about a solid hour and a half, so that's
sweet.
That's good. That's about on par for what we have for recording time. So
cool. I'm glad I wasn't like very different and awkward and weird. It could have gone really badly. That could have gone really badly.
No, it's fine. I mean, okay, we've had, was it Monolith talking about like doing coke in the bathroom of a Taco Bell? I'm like, and that was before I came on. I'm like, so I listened back to those episodes, and then when I started producing, I was like, what have I gotten myself into?
I mean, I have some pretty rough stories, but I'm trying to be presenting myself as like a normal human being these days, so end up in a DM with me and we'll see, you know.
Yeah. I'll keep my innocence.
Yeah, we'll keep it PG. I don't need anyone to like yell at me or tell me I'm a bad person. I already know, you know. So.
You've been in enough group chats to.
I've been in enough. I have ruined enough group chats to know.
Okay. Then let's see. Other ones we would say, and you don't have to go into too much detail or if this is, but who's someone who you personally have like on the notifications, like your face lights up whenever you see them tweet type of thing? Who would be not necessarily underrated, but like a favorite, you know, a favorite person on crypto Twitter.
I'm actually
someone you really.
I'm gonna out myself as a LARP here. I don't have my notifications on for anybody. Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I think I'm my favorite tweeter. No, really, it's just that my whole life, the only way I've been able to like, I don't want to say succeed, but like be successful is because I've never cared about who someone was. There are a lot of people that like I realized well after the fact that they were someone important or interesting or like well known, and I had no idea who they were. And that's the only way I've been able to not be like starstruck by people or like fangirl out too much. So I try to keep myself reined in.
That's fair, honestly. I kind of I kind of keep like a similar, and maybe it's from like a perhaps like a mentally healthier perspective, but people are people first.
Right.
Like we're all just individuals and we want to find friends. Gauging someone based on their importance. I mean, and maybe you've had, but like I've had the times where hanging with a few people and I'm like, these people are some of the smartest fuckers around, and why am I here with them?
Exactly.
And then eventually settling, it's like, no, they're people. I just want
fun. They're just like people first. And you know, I think that Twitter has been very, very helpful for me because it's gotten me in the room with a lot of people that I, in no other situation, would have been able to get in the room with. And I think that's really special. But that has kind of kept me from like caring who people are, because I know when people come up to me and they're like starstruck, which is super weird. I am not important. I am not famous. And I still get it. It freaks me out. So I don't want to treat anybody else in a way that would like freak them out. So I don't actually have notifications on for anybody. I have a bunch of alts just because I try to see what's happening on the entire timeline. I have friends. I have people I love, of course, but I try not to fangirl about people.
Gotcha. And yeah, it's probably a healthy way to...
It's the only thing keeping me from being insanely psycho, so. I also obsess, so when I hyper-focus. I have ADHD really badly, and it's a superpower but a weakness, because I can hyper-focus on things, and it's the only thing in my entire world, and if I let that be a person, it is deeply unhealthy.
Oh yeah, you'll just be completely caught up, and then...
Yep.
Lose any sense of self you have.
Yep, it has ruined relationships for me, both emotionally, romantically, just platonically, so I really try to not do that. So maybe not the most fun answer, but nobody, I guess.
No, that's a fair answer. That's probably arguably like a healthy...
The healthy answer.
The healthiest answers we've had.
People tell me they have like their notifications on for me, and the first thing I do is apologize, because like I just tweet the first thing that comes to my brain a lot of the time, and then I delete it 5 minutes later. I tweet so much. I don't know how anyone could possibly have notifications on for me. That's psycho. Ugh. So, that's how I feel about it. I would want other people to feel the same, I guess.
Is there anything or anyone else in terms of anything you wanted to shill? Anything you're working on?
Yes.
Here's a chance to plug yourself.
You should go check out Hero Network and Hero Trade. Hero Trade is about to go through a little bit of a rename. We have some functionality that has been disabled, but it will be coming back up shortly. I am personally working on the new versions of things that will be coming out there. I'm working on a little bit of I don't even know if I'm really allowed to say it, but we're simplifying some of the functionality that was already there and trying to make it so that like my mom could use it. So it'll be a lot cooler, easier, simpler when it comes back on. Hero Network, on the other hand, is doing a whole bunch of things where they're about to go live. It is really cool. The entire thing rests on the idea of being a like primitive for liquidity for derivatives. So any derivative you want, we can spin up a market, provide liquidity, boom, it's there. Everything bottoms out into it. It's sports betting, it's derivatives, it's anything that can have like a defined payoff, really.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. And we just got our alpha on mainnet. So it's about to go into a like closed sandbox for some testing, but it's going to be live really soon, and we're really excited about it. The team's been working on it for well before I got there, but it's finally happening. There's a lot of things that are coming out. We've got some staking, some incentives, a whole bunch of new stuff that'll just be. I'm honestly really excited about it. The concept is basically a decentralized exchange where you stake your tokens, and the tokens that you have staked. Part of using the network is that we take a fee. 50% of that fee goes back to all the stake token holders. So it's not like a Ponzonomics. There's no, it's purely just use value accrual. There's more to it than that. There's more to it than that. And that's my like 3-second spiel with no practice or polish or anything like that. But you should, and everybody should, go check it out. It's HXRO. Hero, but with an X. And we have a bunch of Twitter accounts. There's Hero Labs, which is kind of like the content arm. There's Trade, which is, like I said, it's kind of our like little platform. And then there's Network, which is the liquidity primitive. So that's a lot.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
No, and for the short spiel you have, it sounds like you're like really excited and passionate.
I'm so
about
excited.
It, so.
I'm so excited about it. I think it's a really cool project, and I see big things in the future. So
awesome.
Not going to say, line go up, but maybe line go up. And it would be nice if it did. Please buy my bags. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, so that's that.
Cool.
Yeah.
There were a few more like questions on but if you're, I don't want to press you if you're
maybe one more. If you got a good one.
Let's see here. Pull up the Twitter really quick.
You can hit me with a spicy one. Now that I've just shilled my job.
All right, let's see here.
Oh, jeez. I tried to go this whole recording without coughing at all. I almost made it.
I'll emphasize that. That'll be the opener.
Birb cough.wave.
All right. Well, we'll go with this one, and
okay.
And unless you think it's maybe perhaps too detailed to go into, but what would you be doing if you weren't in crypto right now? Do you think you'd still be working at a brokerage or doing that type of, or like what would you want to do? I guess, and maybe this is too broad of a question, but
that's a really interesting question. I honestly don't know. I have never been the type to like. I kind of think that planning your life only really leads you to disappointment because it either turns out how you expected, so it went as planned, or it doesn't, and then you're disappointed. So I've never really thought like, oh, this is what I want to do in 5 years, or this is what I want to be when I grow up. But if I wasn't in crypto, I mean, that's an interesting question because if I'd never heard of crypto would be a different answer than if I never took this job. So I don't know. I'd probably still be in finance. I know that I really enjoy markets. I really enjoy economics and looking at kind of behavioral, socioeconomical, like how things work and why. And I'm really into macro and micro more, honestly. I really like market microstructure. I read a lot about it. I've interacted with a lot of it. So I'd probably be back at a prop shop doing product this time instead of being a clerk. Being a clerk was pretty bad, just because it's the bottom of the totem pole, and that's pretty hard to do. So yeah, I think I'd be building something. What it is, I don't know. I just like to work on interesting stuff that I think has a net positive effect on the world. So I don't know more broadly than that, but I think it'd be something like that. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's an admirable mentality to have. Working on something that will have a net positive effect. I think
that's all I really want, right? Like, I don't think we can all just like change the world instantly, but I do think incremental small bits help. Compounding good helps. So the more good you can put out there, the better.
Positive EV and all
exactly, and all of that. So that's where I'd be.
Final thoughts. Send off. Any last thing you wanna?
I don't know. How do other people end these?
Some people, I don't know, they give off like a mission statement, or like, I think it was Indy who was like, be a positive force in the world type of thing. Like,
man, just be good to each other. That's all I really want. We could all stand to just chill out a little bit online and just be better. I think we're seeing an age where everyone's getting more and more polarized and less willing to listen to each other. And I think the most important thing we have, really the only thing we have, is each other. And if you don't listen to each other, we're fucked. So somebody needs to start listening.
No.
Maybe not the positive message I was hoping was going to come out. I'm kind of just spitballing, but listen to each other and try to be good to other people. That's what I would say. That's all I ask. And if you can't do that, don't talk to me. Please leave me alone. I've had too much negativity. I don't need more of it. So,
try to be nice, and if you can't, fuck off. Like,
you know what? No, honestly, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's it. That's all it goes back to.
That's what it boils down to, yeah.
That, and treat other people the way you want to be treated. Like, it turns out all the shit we learned in kindergarten is legitimate. Just act like a kindergartner. We need more whimsy in the world, we need more good, and we need more silliness. Practice kindergarten thought. It's really all I got.
Behind that.
I really think everything's so serious now, and so serious and so angry, and there's not a lot of room for whimsy and silly. Like, wear a little hat, do something stupid. Who cares? Like, try something different. Be nice to each other, and yeah, I think we'll all end up in a better place.
I could not wholeheartedly more agree.
Good. Good. I'm glad someone agrees, because I'm sure nobody else will when they hear this. I'm not going to listen to it. I won't be able to.
No, that's okay.
But, yeah. I think that's all I got. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a blast.
Thanks for, and again, we appreciate, like, you had been a guest on my list for a while. I was like,
I'm honored.
We should talk to Birb. There'd be a fun conversation.
I'm honored. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, no, it really was. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Me too. But I'm gonna bounce. This was fun, and I'm gonna hide my head in shame when it comes out.
We'll hype it up like crazy and post it everywhere. So
good, you should. All right. Well, I will catch you guys later. Well, just you, because Kit's gone, but I will catch you later.
Sounds good. Take care.
You too. Bye.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Dojima Futures Exchange podcast. If you like the show, please like, comment, give us a rating. We really do appreciate them. I will come out with some behind the scenes thing, and I will call out a bunch of these, and yeah, we will